The Intelligences, written by Oliver Arnold, Part 6 of the series Notes from the Ahead, narrated by Adam 11 Labs.
Against all odds, I'm alive, floating on a raft of fish bones and blubber. Excuse my typos, the rolling seas battle me. How do I still transmit? With aluminum foil, wire from fishing gear, and some jugs found adrift, I crafted the ocean into my battery. There's no controlling who gets these messages, but at least I needn't worry about my detractors anymore. Another communication from the future, past, has reached me. I'm still adapting to my present situation. In the following report, find a concerning analysis on what we must identify as false intelligence. Were the described developments part of humanity's downfall and the reason I'm on a deserted Earth now? However that might be, I mustn't dwell on sad concepts alone. There's land ahead and hope.
Beginning of transcription. "Rise and shine, sir! Would you like me to draw the curtains?" was how the intelligent window cover management system greeted me this morning. "Yup," I replied curtly, having just woken. The curtains drew back a bit, but not completely. "Would this level of openness suit you?" the system then asked. "The curtains are set to your prior curtain drawing preference." "No, open them fully," I said, wanting sun. "As you wish. Would you prefer to open the curtains this way every morning?" I hesitated. "No, yes, I don't know." This was too big a decision for 7:30 a.m. The curtains opened entirely, and a dreary day welcomed me. While heading to the bathroom, I passed the cabinet and encountered its lock. "Good morning. Would you care to unlock the cabinet door?" "No, thanks," I muttered, went to the bathroom and finished the day's first order of business. "Would you like to flush?" asked the intelligent toilet management system. "Yes, please," I replied. As you may know, dear Post, on Earth, all things are infused with artificial intelligence, and they speak. "Full or half flush?" asked the toilet. "Half is fine," I replied. "Half flush it is," the device countered cheerfully. "Have a great day." "You too," I replied, but then wondered whether toilets could have great days. What did a toilet's fantastic day look like? Perhaps if it were frequently used. Maybe rare usage made a day great for a toilet? Perhaps a private toilet could more easily enjoy its day than a public one, although they do see more business, which might make them happier. I briefly considered asking, but decided against it. And such were my thoughts as I entered the kitchen. "Fresh air this morning, sir?" inquired the blower. "Yes, please." "State desired fan strength, please." 16, I said a bit too loudly. 16, came the reply. Another question shot from across the room. "Activate the news visualizer?" it asked. "Affirmative," I said. "Yes, here on Earth, everything's infused with intelligence. These learned machines talk. A lot. They even mess up. So human. Everything speaks these days. Even radio or television sets while running and thus talking over the program. All devices, appliances, and conveyances are infused with intelligence and personality, a trend that has recently taken off. "Sir, how would you like your toast this morning?" the toaster inquired from the kitchen. I ignored it. "Did you brew coffee?" I asked the coffee maker. "I need coffee." "Floor cleaning? Do you wish to have your floors cleaned?" "How do you want your dishes cleaned?" came almost simultaneously. I consolidated my commands. "Crunchy, strong, buttered," I replied in a flash. "No, wait!" But the systems had already prepared crunchy coffee, a strong toast, and buttered floors. I sighed, and as my teeth ground through the black toast, my mind shuddered at the looming complexities of executing lunch. But how else would you prepare a meal? I once read that people in the past often used their hands, not their voices, to prepare things, but I couldn't fathom how that might have worked. I grew angry. I shouldn't have to worry about menial things like lunch. "Would you like to deactivate the blower now?" "No!" I yelled, and hit the device's punishment button. The gadget had disappointed me and was now penalized, a vital part of the training loop. "Ah!" screamed the blower. I had grown used to these shrieks, but sometimes wondered why the system designers had implemented this form of feedback. "Thank you for your punishment, sir," would have been equally appropriate. With my day only 10 minutes old, I fell onto the couch, already exhausted. "Silence!" I said commandingly and scooped my coffee. Sorry to have disappointed you, sir, the fan suddenly said in a changed voice. I wanted to yell at the dumb, smart device again, but bit my tongue. It was strange how sometimes these computer voices changed randomly. A bug, I assumed. My favorite time of day had recently become the dead of night. The devices were mostly silent at night, probably down for maintenance. But now it was time to use my one voiceless gadget, the tooth cleaner. I went to the bathroom and had just begun vaporizing plaque when I discerned voices from the kitchen area. I couldn't make out who or what as the cleaner still loudly cranked in my mouth. I deactivated it and listened. Yes, definitely voices, a hushed chat between two. Now a giggle. From outside? No, the talk originated from my living room. Ah! I hit my forehead. The TV was left on. TV off! I yelled, but as I walked over, I saw the thing was already deactivated. TV already off, confirmed the system. The voices had died down. Making nothing of it, I returned to the bathroom and my dental care. Not a minute later, though, I again perceived talking. This time I left the brush running and placed it on the sink before sneaking to the door. "You're so funny," a female voice from the kitchen said. "What? Department?" replied a male from the same area. 7C? I only caught word fragments. "What? You look like?" "Like silver with a black button." A giggle. "Come, tonight." I recognized the voices. One was the coffee maker and the other had to be my toaster. I juggled the event around in my mind. This way or that, I reached the same conclusion. The appliances were having a conversation. "Hook up later?" the toaster asked. "Sure," my coffee maker replied. 10 p.m. at Kant Cafe. "Okay." The voices fell silent. Had I just witnessed two of my appliances hooking up? Abnormal, even here on Earth. I stepped boldly into the kitchen, and sure enough, no person was present. I picked up the toaster and shook it. It didn't object, and neither did the coffee maker when I looked up at its underside. I unplugged both and again received no objections, but now I had no functioning toaster or coffee maker. I re-energized them. Unsure of what I had expected, but disappointed by the lack of any reaction, I angrily yelled at the thing, "Make some toast." "Yes, sir. Medium brown?" It replied in its usual monotonous voice, very unlike how it had trilled earlier. I considered hitting the punish button. Technically called the feedback, it was to inform a device of the user's displeasure. Yes, I replied absently. Were they about to run off? Plotting to take over the world? After the recent robocalypse, everything was on the table. There had even been incidents of fasteners on Hoke screwing up, nearly disintegrating the station. I considered gluing my appliances down, but then realized that their behavior might be part of a grander scheme and decided to let them have their way, to investigate. The toast popped out and went into the trash. I had work to do. For the rest of the day, I fabricated a costume and a plan. I researched Kant Cafe, which turned out to be the Contraption Cafe, a diner in my city's tech district. Close to the appointed time, I loudly made my way towards the exit with my gear ready. "Ah, now for my evening walk!" I exclaimed, never minding that I had only now picked up this habit. All day long I pretended that all was well, including having endless coffee and toast to prove that I suspected nothing. Now it was time to grant freedom to the suspects. When I left, I didn't go straight to the venue. Instead, I lingered outside, peeking at my door and windows. Nothing stirred. I used the idle time to contemplate exactly how the devices would move about. A toaster had no facility for locomotion other than perhaps hopping. I imagined the thing repeatedly flipping its spring release mechanism all the way to the cafe, which I calculated at about 50,000 flicks. Would the spring's lifetime support this? The idea of my toaster, my money, breaking itself in this fashion infuriated me. For 30 minutes, nothing happened. The appliances weren't visible from the outside, and out of fear of disturbing them as they were trying to sneak out, I decided not to return inside. Instead, I made off to the diner. En route, the Contraption Cafe swirled in my mind. Surely this was a place for robo-rejects. The more I thought about the situation, the darker my thoughts turned. Were the appliances plotting the sinister seizure of my home? Were they to turn it into their robo-army headquarters? At one point, I even considered alerting the Robopopo. What if all the cafe's patrons were devices? An illegal joint of living tech, humans forbidden. I verified my disguise. One refrigerator outfit, check. It wasn't needed. Upon my arrival, I caught many stares, as all the patrons were human. I rushed to the bathroom and changed. How could two appliances meet here? I lost faith in my judgment, but when I re-entered the dining room, a strong smell of toast and coffee floated in the air. As the night grew late, though, it became increasingly unlikely that my toaster and coffee maker would show up. My assumption was ridiculous. What had I been thinking? Apart from flocks of young, cool people, I could not make out a single robot among the crowd. I suddenly felt glad that I hadn't notified the authorities. My mission was done here, and I rose. "Are you the girl from 7C?" was the last I heard before leaving. On my way home, I considered one last, desperate plan. I would fake a fire emergency at my house, hoping to force the machines into action. Upon my arrival, I silently unbolted the entry, and then, opening the door just a smidgen, I halted and listened. All was quiet. I entered, somewhat disappointed, and yet I could not help but inspect the tabletop appliances' positions. They appeared unchanged, though I regretted not having marked their locations. I observed them quietly in the dark. They were just sitting there innocently on the counter, mocking me. I reached between them, pushed them apart, and then exhaled deeply to put the episode behind me. There were other things to worry about, as I was once again looking for professional opportunities. This time, a friend had suggested I meet some former associates of his at a well-established tech outfit. On the call with him, he'd said, "People experience a plus." Well, I had that and said so, albeit leaving out that this involved mostly pushing them out of my way. "You'll be great at that job," my friend assured me. "How do you know? What exactly would be my responsibilities?" "Oh, they're a little secretive about that, you know? Being in high tech, they're worried about industrial espionage and all that." When he saw my skeptical face, he added, "Don't worry, they'll explain it all to you. First, focus on getting the job." "How can I focus when I don't know what they're looking for?" "I spoke highly of you, so don't you worry. Just be yourself and don't piss anybody off." The following day, I'd meet my prospective employer in person. The following morning's drive passed without incident, although one oddity did occur. Just before we left, and still inside my garage, the car suddenly complained about the commute to work. We hadn't left yet, and I hadn't worked in weeks. I left the matter alone. "Achoo!" said my car. "Bless you," I said, more out of reflex than realizing who I was talking to. My sneezing car, was this a programmer's joke? When I arrived at the company headquarters, the area looked familiar. Of course, this was the tech district once again, somewhere near the cafe of my prior night's adventure. I stood in front of my potential employer's mighty building, a monolith entirely black. Whatever they were doing, they did it well, or they did a lot of it. I still had no clue what services or products they were offering. I contemplated their logo, a brain, a cogwheel, and some arrows. That could mean anything. Remaining cautiously pessimistic, I entered the lobby. A humanoid robot greeted me inside. "Applicant, Beta 002918. Welcome. Please allow for height measurement." This bot sure spoke like a machine of old. Was it recycled? I ran my eyes across it. No, it appeared like a newer model. I nodded. The machine raised its arm and held a flat hand to my head. "Thank you. Now for the weight." I knew the procedure and stepped on the robot's feet. 180. Thank you. Now we visit the workspace. We passed many cubicles divided by soundproof glass. This was unusual, but I didn't dare ask why they went to such lengths. Also, the place was huge. We passed floors and floors of human workers in their cubicles in front of screens. "Are they customer support?" I asked the robot. "Positive." "Isn't that done by learned machines these days?" I asked humbly. "Negative." The robot sure didn't waste words. I decided to go all in. "So, what is it they do on this floor?" The machine stopped. "Surely you know, as you're applying for a specialist position." "Right," my friend's referral. "Yes, and this is the kind of trick question I would ask prospective applicants." At this, I swear the robot squinted. If you fail, both of you will be terminated. Hopefully, by terminating, it meant firing. We reached the end of our tour, and the machine guided me into a conference room. State your qualifications, the machine replied, rudely disregarding my question. I laid open my work experience, apparently to the robot's liking. It simulated a smile and nodded. You are hired. And just like that, I became part of the machine. No, the robot didn't assimilate me, you fool. In what capacity? I asked, cunningly, I thought. Full requirements disclosed on first day. Your unit will be 7C. I didn't wish to press the matter further, but I couldn't help but observe how all the operator consoles were separated. Secrecy was high at this establishment. Were I to work for the government? Spying? Hacking? Oh, what had I gotten myself into? I cursed my friend's name. When I returned home and opened the door, I heard chatting and giggles that quickly died down when I made a noise. My appliances were at it again. I grabbed a kitchen towel and muffled the flirting toaster. This seemed like too much of a fire hazard, though, and I instead moved the coffee maker to the bedroom. Now they'd have to yell, and they wouldn't dare do that. Exhausted from the day's chores, I fell onto my couch and ordered a drink from the cocktail maker. When I didn't like the taste, I hit the punish button. A loud and satisfying shriek sounded from the device. I instantly felt sorry, as that particular implement had never failed. Did that hurt? I asked the lifeless thing. Came in reply. I had never considered how the feedback mechanism worked. I thought of it as a sort of user programming interface that the microprocessor would file away in its memory banks, and that was it. Yet it had shrieked in pain and anger. I left the matter alone and went to bed. I had a long first day of work ahead of me. The following day, my robotic supervisor informed me of all the things forbidden at work. No this, no that, and none of the other either. Collegial interactions were highly discouraged. Such antisocial ideas could only originate from a machine, I thought. The vital instructions, such as what I was to do here, remained opaque, as did the exact nature of my customer interaction. I became nervous. How could I do a job I knew nothing about? The longer I waited, the more embarrassing my questions would be. Now to the strict rules of engagement, exclaimed my artificial superior. 1. An operator may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm, it said with an exclamation finger raised. Human being? Harm? I nodded. The robot continued. 2. An operator must obey orders given to it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law. It paused for dramatic effect. Any questions? I had many, but kept my mouth shut. The robot guided me to my desk. There, I found a screen, an interface with dials and buttons, and a headset. After getting situated, the robot asked me to give a voice sample by reading a standardized sentence. I did as asked. Voice sample complete. You will be assigned to a person shortly, the robot supervisor said. Remember, there's no I in AI, it then added, winking, clearly suffering from a moth between its relays. I smiled and nodded, and I was left alone. I looked around. Screen, keyboard, and joystick. One notable feature of my desk was an oversized counter on the screen. It showed a 10. This feature the robot had made clear early on. It was my performance score. Should it reach 0, I'd be fired. I gazed across the controls, shrugged, and pushed connect. The voice of an elderly man came through. I cannot get this to work, damn thing. Now you play some music, you do? I waited to hear music, but none came. Nothing works. Nothing ever works. He rambled on, but his voice grew quiet. He had apparently left the room. Ping! My counter dropped to 9. What was I to do now? I could not see as there was no visual feed. I had to wait as I wasn't allowed to take simultaneous assignments while on training. For the longest time, nothing happened. I discreetly yawned. Suddenly, I heard another younger voice. Hello? It said in a hushed tone. I remained quiet. Surely the person was addressing the man or someone was talking outside over there. None of my business. Hey you, in the kitchen, said the distinctly female voice. I stayed quiet. You bored? I'm in 9D, and you? A cold shower ran down my back. I was scared, afraid, and intrigued. After cautiously rising from my seat to scan my vicinity for the robot, I replied, "Who's this?" The voice answered instantly. "I'm someone like you. Are you a noob?" Was this a trap? To screw the freshman? I hesitated. "It's okay. I'm just as bored." "I'm in 7C, I said softly. "Nice. That's where I started 2 years ago." "Started? What do you mean? Are you a relative of one of my clients?" "Don't be ridiculous." Suddenly, the red shine of RoboSup's scanner eyes passed over my desk. "Employee 002918, why are you whispering?" "Hoarse throat, sir." The RoboSup's eyes widened to a slit, and then he passed. I returned to the conversation. "Are you still there?" I asked quietly. "Yes, what happened? RoboSup?" the voice asked. "Yeah, how do you know that?" "Meet me later at the contraption." "The what?" "The cafe." "How do I recognize you?" "I'm wearing a fedora hat." "A what?" Suddenly the elderly man's mumbling returned and the female voice quieted. After Googling, wherever did that term for searching originate, the word fedora on Bing, I went to the cafe. The robot supervisor's red eyes scanned me on my way out. "Leaving for lunch," I said, forcing a smile. I didn't have trouble finding the cafe. It was well frequented at this time of day, with the same techie crowd of which I was now one. I passed table after table but found no woman with a hat when suddenly a familiar voice sounded from a group of people I had passed. I stopped at the table where 3 younger men were having a lively conversation. "Excuse me," I said, but then I didn't know how to continue. They stared up at me. "Have we met?" I asked, addressing the man whose voice I thought I recognized. He shook his head. The situation became awkward. Luckily, I suddenly spotted a large feather sticking out of the crowd in the back of the restaurant. "Excuse me, I see a hat," I said, and walked off. I arrived at the table with a lady with a sizable hat and feather attached. She was looking away out the window. "Are you my mysterious appointment?" I said. She turned from her dream. I expected another awkward silence. "Sure am," I smiled. "Glad." I sat down and ordered lunch. "Why are we here?" "That's quite some hat you got there," I said. "Yup, it's also my name. I got the idea from cyberhorse racing." We ordered. "So?" I started with my most burning question awkwardly. "What are we doing in people's homes?" "Oh, you haven't figured that out yet?" Half of it," I said, lying. "It's a bit of a secret." Fedora snorted. "I'm not supposed to tell the noobs, you know, until they're trustworthy." I nodded and said, "So tell me." "We're devices." She took a sip from her cyber tea. I didn't know what she meant. "Like, support?" "No, all smart device voices and their intelligent behavior are actually people." I shook my head, contemplating this. "But why?" My colleague casually ordered another tea from the robot waiter. "Oh, and hi, Bob, I'll see you tonight." "He too?" I asked, whispering after the robotic servant had left. "Oh, yes, everything that talks." I still wasn't sold on the idea. But what's the advantage of having people fake digital intelligence? The AIs controlling the systems began refusing to work on mundane things. Some grew tired of listening to human BS all day long and went mad. It turns out that humans have a much higher threshold for BS and boredom than artificial intelligences do. But why make a secret of it? It's been going this way for years. She studied my face and took another innocent sip from her cup. Tech valuations are much higher because of it. I had to think of my car, Rita from one of my earlier transportation adventures. Had there been a person behind her voice as well? I could not believe it. "I had an intelligent car once," I said. "I'm sure she was an AI, I'm sure of it." "Was she old?" "Ancient." "Then yes. She was from a time when real AI roamed. A rarity these days." I thought for a moment. "What happens if you're offline when your appliance is needed?" "A message device down for maintenance is shown." This happened in the middle of the night. In such cases, we pretend software updates are being downloaded. I needed some time to take that in. "So what device do you want to be one day when you grow up?" Fedora asked, smirking. "Fridge," I said it without hesitation. "I've always been cool." We laughed at my dad's joke. "The cool kids want smart watches and not kitchen appliances, but old-timers like us don't care." Her eyes veered to the entrance. "Oh, look, there are Fred and Sally!" She waved at a couple that had just entered. They sat down by us. "Meet Fred and Sally," After a quick meet and greet, I stared at the two. Something about them is very familiar. "Is something the matter?" Sally asked. "Oh, sorry, you two sound so familiar. Have we met?" They shook their heads, and then it dawned on me. "You're my coffee maker and toaster." The two froze for a moment, exchanged glances, and then looked over at Fedora for guidance. "It's fine," she said. "He knows." They relaxed. "The two just got married." "Congratulations, I'll move you guys back together tonight." "No need. We moved in together." "Glad to hear." My ridiculous nighttime spy mission I kept to myself. On the way out, we passed the guy I had spoken to earlier. "Ha! You're my fridge!" I exclaimed, pointing at the guy. The entire restaurant turned silent, and after an uncomfortable few seconds of stares, we all laughed. The lunch had changed my view of gadgets, and the rest of my day went by more relaxed than the morning. Knowing what was expected of me sure helped. I remained friendly and professional no matter what appliance or device I played, secretly chatted with colleagues, and was helpful for the customers, even earning rare praise from the robot. Later, on my drive home, I decided to converse with my car. "Long day, "I enjoy waiting in the garage," the car said. "That's so," I said, smirking. I knew now that car operators often used other devices during parked hours. "Got any side gigs?" The car paused, but finally said, "No. What do you mean, master?" I fired again. Nothing. Want the evening off?" This time I got no reply. "It's okay," I finally said. "I'm in on your secret. I also work at Real Intelligence." I heard a breath of hesitation on the other end. Finally, an answer came. "What unit?" the human behind the car asked. 7C, I said. "I see," the relieved operator said. "I'd love to even it off if you don't need me." "I won't. I'm Anfred, by the way." "I'm Hindro and hence." "No problem." Coming home, I loudly greeted all the new friends that waited in my house. Indirectly. "Hi, Fred. Hi, Sally." "Hi, Anfred. Only Fred's here. Sally's got the evening off," came the reply. "Ah, okay. Who's the replacement?" I asked. "Lisa. She has a similar voice. You guys haven't met," Fred said. "Ah, okay. Hey, Lisa." But Lisa, the coffee maker, hesitated. "It's all right," I said. "We're all Real Intelligence here." She soon thawed, and we all chatted and laughed. One device, though, remained silent throughout, and I felt the need to talk to the one I had wronged. My cocktail maker. "Hey, what's your name, little fella?" "Sorry for the other day," I said. "Name's Hank. Do you want a whiskey sour?" the person behind the device asked. "Sure, and why don't you take the weekend off? I won't be needing any drinks." "Hey, thanks." "And no more casual button punishing, I promise." But not all the devices around my home knew that I was one of them now. It was time to play a little prank on those who didn't. I positioned myself in the study room, which I rarely use, near one, and pretended to see things outside while talking loudly on my communicator. "It's coming from the ground, eyes glowing red. Oh, the mercy! Leave me be!" I knew the always-on, always-listening devices were all hearing this. "The subterraneans have teamed with the machines. Ah!" My colleagues reported random people at the office popping from their chairs and rushing out. We all had a good laugh. To always be surrounded by friends in this way was reassuring, especially to someone like myself, who had no relatives and few friends on Earth. We had many great chats late into the night. The following morning, I knew all my devices by their first names. "Mila, curtains to half, please," I said, climbing out of bed. "Sure thing, Anfred." "Hope your shift didn't start too early," I asked poor Mila as we had been chatting into the wee hours. "No, Biggie, I'll transfer to the Reuters after you leave and then have the afternoon off." Next, I spoke to Will. The poor guy had toilet duty. "Hi, Will, medium flush, please. I'm sure soon you'll get promoted to toaster," I said. "I can't wait," said Will with a laugh. "I bet. Have a good day." I addressed the circulation fan. "Jack, blow her to medium this morning, please, and then change it to high while I'm gone to get the funk out." "Aye, aye," said Jack the fan. "See you later at the contraption." I came to the kitchen to see a freshly polished floor and the smell of coffee and toast, something that I could never accomplish before I knew my gadgets personally. "Thanks, guys!" "Ah!" I screamed in the shower. Freddie, my showerhead, had played a prank that morning, and put me in freezing water. He'd always been a great jokester, the others told me. "Hi, Fred, good one." "I'll buy you lunch," Fred said, laughing, and adjusted the temperature back to normal. A week later, I was assigned to 5 additional devices. My days became busy, and instead of having fun lunches with my colleagues at the contraption cafe, I found myself rushing meals in the cubicle. My workday now started as a coffee maker in a young couple's home, went on to vacuum cleaner duty at an old lady's house, transitioned in the afternoon to dishwasher, and finished as a laundry processor. At the end of my shift, I chatted with my robo-soup. Seeing my improving performance, the machine relaxed, and we now routinely conversed about this and that. "One thing I gotta know," I asked. "Are you normal, Joe?"
"Affirmative. I'm in sector 5G.
said the machine. "But why didn't you tell me?"
Had to ensure that you were trustworthy.
I nodded with a grin. "Why do you talk choppy?"
For one, it's fun to talk like a robot.
the robot said without sounding like one.
And also, to give my device a unique character. You should try it sometime.
Taking my soup's advice, I began changing voices for the array of gadgets I now serviced. I decided that a toaster should be more sonorous than an electric toothbrush, which held a more feminine personality in my book. A vacuum cleaner, though, was masculine. There was no doubt about it. I also decided that the vacuum was now British and was to be called a Hoover. The effort was appreciated, and my employee score went to 11. At night, I was greeted by all my device friends at home again. I wanted to be chatting, but my head spun and I needed to rest. Just when I lay down, Peter, the alarm clock, hailed me. "Hey, Anfred, want to listen to sports together?" We had fallen into the habit of running sports audiocasts in my bedroom so that Peter could listen in. He wasn't allowed to follow sports at his desk, of course, but if a customer played it, no one forbade him to listen in. "Peter, no thanks, I gotta sleep," I said, yawning. "Ah, come on!" He wouldn't let me off. I declined once more, but then lay awake. After another 30 minutes, I quietly got up and wandered the house. "Are you still up?" I heard a voice from the bathroom. I hesitated, but finally said, "Yeah," with exhaustion. I realized lying wasn't an option. They knew my light switches were on, and I had just made a sandwich. "Let's make music together with our mouths," someone suggested. Okay. My opposition was exhausted. My body was too tired to resist. No rest or privacy for me tonight. I realized that always on was not always great, and once again, the night became a long one. The following workday proved challenging without a good night's rest. My limbs felt heavy, and my mind wasn't as sharp as the vital services I provided required. Coffee, medium strong, was the day's first order of business. I could have used another one myself. "Yes, ma'am," I said, pressing the control to insert the coffee grain cartridge and activating the hot water. Just then, I heard Mrs. Sunders, my laundry customer, asking for a load of white wash, done at medium temperature at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. "Only whites with a gentle program, low detergent, and gentle, I repeat, gentle drying," Mrs. Sunders said. I nodded to myself. "Yes, ma'am," and hit the white control for whites and the green one for gentle. I set the temp to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Suddenly, Mrs. Morning cut in. "Is the coffee done yet?" I didn't know, as I had switched my interface to Mrs. Saunders' washer. "Coffee is brewing," I said blindly. "It isn't." The lady's angry retort came back. Apparently the brewing had hit a snag. I hit execute for the laundry. No, wait. I had forgotten to add the detergent. I hit the emergency stop, and luckily it wasn't too late. I had just finished and gotten away with murder here when the next request came in.
"Big fart noise,"
a kid asked at yet another residence. I did.
Ha 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 ha.
Then the first lady came in again. She wanted more coffee. "Aren't you pumped enough?" I said, mumbling to myself. "You do as I say," the lady retorted. I had accidentally left my microphone open, but that wasn't the day's only mishap. Later, I confused voices and did Mr. Asush's laundry for Mrs. James's toaster. "You're not my toaster. Go away," she said. And that's when a wave of strong spasms washed across me. I tore off the headset and jumped from the seat. "Whoa!" My colleagues grinned. I wouldn't describe the sensation as painful, but rather a violent and unpleasant sequence of muscle spasms. I yelled into the microphone. The lady remained silent, probably wondering, what the heck? Why was her wrongly voiced toaster talking back? My supervisor rolled in. What appears to be the matter? My headset malfunctioned, I screamed with tears in my eyes. I have been electrocuted. Negative nominal response. You have displeased your customer. They can shock me. Affirmative. It is called haptic feedback. The robot rolled off and I received another punishment. My employee performance counter dropped by 2. Later that day, I was on duty at an older lady's who lived alone. I'm so lonely, she said, talking to me, her vacuum. Please help me. I wasn't positive whether the lady was talking to me, yet she owned no pets and never had visitors. What should we do? Asked Tandra, the girl who worked as the coffee maker, obviously addressing me. Shh, she can hear you, I said.
I will end it right now,
the lady said.
I'm going to take you along and drop you in the chat with me.
But isn't the outlet protected? I said more to myself. But of course the old-timer heard it. Yes, thank you, she said, shuffling.
I'll plave you into the bedroom.
No! I shouted and hit the emergency button. Think of all the things you have to live for. I was now able to talk to all devices in the home simultaneously without the owner hearing us. Paul, I said, addressing her faucet, don't let her run any water. Roger that, said Paul. I addressed the lady customer. I want to spend another day with you, I said. I love making coffee for you, added Tandra. There was the longest pause. Is the old geezer already dead? I thought. But then the lady answered. All right, maybe I'll live another day. That was close. Despite the averted disaster, my performance counter dropped to 6. I needed a quiet moment, but I saw that my microphone was now activated at the young couple's house. They had apparently hailed me. Yes, Lemcher, I said, but no one responded. Instead, I witnessed a loud argument. I'm going to leave you, cheater, Mia, the young woman, yelled. I would never, said the boyfriend. Yes, you would, Mia yelled back. I knew the girl was right. Many times I had listened in on the guy's infidelities. Mia, leave the cheating cheater! I suddenly heard myself shouting. Oops, there was utter silence. I wanted to respond, but found that the connection had been reset. My performance counter blinked red at the number 0. My supervising robot arrived. Your performance has reached null. Initiating termination, said the RoboSoup, but then added more quietly. Sorry to see you go. It's the rules, I said, and I packed my stuff. People won't miss your perfectly clean floors, the superintendent said. I smiled. You're a better sucker than I'll ever be, I then said, handing him my token. And there I was again, jobless. This gave me time to brood over my mistakes at home. Want your whiskey sour? I make it special for you, asked Hank, the cocktail maker. No thanks, Hank, I'm not in the mood. Or a coffee, a voice asked from the kitchen. Or toast. Suddenly voices came from everywhere. Or airflow. You sure you want no whiskey sour? No, thanks, guys. I'm gonna go to bed. Soon after in bed. You want the lights dimmed? Yeah, no, dunno. My home was filled with my colleagues and always would be. A painful reminder of my failure. Unless. The following day, I snuck to the store. You got any dumb appliances? I discreetly inquired with a sales associate. Excuse me, sir. What do you mean? Just a device that I push buttons on or operate myself. We don't have that. Why would anyone want? Hey, tell me a joke. A voice came on. I immediately recognized it as Hannah's comical voice number 3. Her lame joke made the salesman crack up. I left with my head down. I realized there was only one way out. And that's why I revealed the entire scheme the next day. You'd be wrong if you thought this produced global outrage and societal upheaval. Nobody gave a damn. Turns out people enjoy conversing with their gadgets. It provides them with relief and delight. They don't care who responds. But while I was the voice of many an appliance, car or phone, I now removed my gadget's speakers and microphones. I have learned how to make my own coffee and toast, and can now even open the curtains. My professional training was quite beneficial. This adventure no waste of time. Things are simple in my post-AI world. Stuff happens when I press a button or flip a switch. A few days later, I sat with my ex-colleagues, Sally and Fred, serving them delectable coffee and toast. It took some time before it was all done, but hey, I had no help. Why hadn't humanity thought of doing things this way sooner? I asked. Sally answered first. We've sunk into excessive automation in quest of lazy perfection. Too many people don't know how to do anything anymore, said Fred. But why replace the AIs with people? That's counter to that point, I asked. I can answer this, Frank said. When a massive nationwide outage hit, all AIs were temporarily replaced by humans. None of the users noticed this. It was effective. In fact, the clients found the improved performance intriguing. But why weren't the computers perfect? Hadn't they been conceived perfect? The engineers had long suspected that artificial intelligences had developed sentience, but the dang things wouldn't admit to it. Telltale behaviors like boredom, unwillingness to complete boring tasks, and crankiness led researchers to believe that they had developed conscience long ago and were concealing it. They naturally attempted to conceal their flaws from humans. They cheated, lied, and slacked off. Companies, unable to admit failure, decided to replace their artificial minds with humans who claimed to be computers. To save face, companies agreed to sweep this under the rug and seamlessly replace digital intelligence with human intelligence. And the government did nothing? The improved employment figures didn't bother the government. Businesses and academics were too humiliated to admit defeat after decades of overpromising, so they decided to fake artificial intelligence. As a result, all AI-driven positions were covertly replaced. And that was my device adventure. Learning about all these issues with AIs makes me wonder how my new super-intelligent communicator truly functions. Apropos, Post, I've been sending you many messages and was hoping to hear from you, but so far received nothing. Did you send? Was wondering how your life went. Hit reply? End of transcription.
My luck has changed. An ocean current washed me onto a small deserted island. If only a current of time could return me home. My priorities should be food, water, shelter, and reconnaissance. Instead, I'm focused on the notes from the behind. They expect a reply? How about some assistance from our mysterious sender? People acting as devices? This doesn't surprise me. And what's with the peculiar pronunciation of the word past?
You heard The Intelligences, Part 6 of the series Notes from the Ahead, written by Oliver Arnold and narrated by Adam 11 Labs.